If you're looking for the best iPhone lens, here's a list you must see. We made this list based on our personal preference and sorted it based on the features, prices, quality, durability, and reputation of the manufacturers and customer feedback. Also, we've included options for every type of customer. So let's get started. At the first position of our list, we have BlackEye Pro Cinema Wide G4. The BlackEye Pro Cinema Wide G4 handled everything we threw at it, performing above average in every test, all while being moderately priced compared to some of its competitors. This iPhone lens is quite sharp in the middle of the frame and holds its own in the corners of the image. There's a little bit of distortion and loss of image quality in the corners, but that's to be expected. Like most of its competitors, it comes with a microfiber cloth carrying back and a protective metal lens cap. That metal lens cap keeps the lens safe while not in use, but can be a little challenging to take off when wearing gloves. This lens suffered from flare in some difficult backlighting situations, but for the most part, it handled backlight acceptably. The biggest drawback was the setup, specifically alignment. The cutout on the mount is just slightly smaller than the lens on an iPhone XR, the model we did all our testing on, which makes setup somewhat longer, and we suspect it adds to the corner distortion issue. Though it is possible to use this lens with a case on, it functions much better without one. Moving on to the next at number 2 with Moment Tele 58 lens. The Moment Tele 58 lens is the best telephoto lens that we tested. It makes it look like you are 2x closer than with a bare iPhone lens. This magnification lends itself amazingly well to shooting portraits, but it also does great in a landscape situation with the right composition. This lens had the highest overall test scores of any lens in the category, with top marks in both center sharpness and color rendition. The telephoto effect is a dramatic change from the stock lens and can be paired with the telephoto lens that some iPhones have. All Moment iPhone lenses require cases. While this limits the case options you can use, we found their options to be very handsome. The significant benefit gained by using a case is that installation becomes incredibly convenient, and it's easy to achieve in the perfect alignment every time. This lens's metal construction also inspires confidence that it could hold up to some abuse. We did have a few gripes with this lens. The biggest one was how it handled flare. We rarely found ourselves using this lens while shooting into the sun, but when we did, the flare was distracting. The second thing that our team found annoying is the lack of corner sharpness. Though this is something that can be used creatively to achieve fantastic results, it also can hinder its versatility. Speaking of versatility, that is the major drawback to a telephoto lens. We didn't find ourselves using it as much as some of the wide-angle lenses, but that can vary by personal preference. The number 3 position is held by Moment Anamorphic lens. The point of an anamorphic lens is to create a wider aspect ratio without cropping it on the image. It does this by squeezing the image with a different shape of the glass. Anamorphic refers to that shape. Other than the aspect ratio, the most notable visual trait of these lenses is a very distinct, long, and thin flare. All this is very appealing to high-end filmmakers, and that's where they are typically employed. When most people see a photo or video shot with one, they will say, "It looks so cinematic." The images below compare the unedited image, left and the squeezed, right? There's a lot to consider if you are trying to justify the hefty price tag. The first is just how difficult it is to use. The squeezed image needs to be desqueezed, which requires either Moment's app or another third-party application. If you want to change from horizontal to a vertical orientation, you need a tool to loosen the set screw and counter-turn the lens. But when it comes to results, this lens produces great images and leaves very little to criticize. If you are looking for a lens like this, we highly recommend it. Next at number 4, we have Xenvo Pro Lens Kit. The Xenvo Pro Lens Kit is really big. More on that later. In terms of installation, it is effortless to put on your iPhone, fitting right over the stock lens without a case on. Its color rendition and sharpness are excellent, and it eats up backlit situations commendably compared to some of the other lenses that we tested. The Xenvo Pro is an integrated 2-lens system, meaning the wide-angle lens screws onto the macro lens. This integration makes it easy to transition from macro to wide angle. Its macro lens is not as powerful as others that we tested, but this is not necessarily a critique. We found that it was still able to magnify most things we wanted to photograph. But it is good to recognize this difference. It is tough to overstate how big this lens is. The case for these iPhone lenses requires a 3.4 x 4.7 x 2.5 pocket. For you photo nerds out there, It has a 50-tune filter thread, meaning you can go to any photography shop and buy filters or a lens cap for it. We would have liked to see increased image quality on the corners of the frame, given the amount of glass that this lens has. Even with these drawbacks, we were impressed with the performance of these two lenses overall. The number 5 position is held by Anazalea wide-angle macro lens. The Anazalea is the widest lens we tested that wasn't a fisheye. Like some of the other two lens combos, the wide-angle lens of this pair screws onto the macro lens, making the package small, convenient, and versatile. Where this lens shines is in how it handles backlit situations, second only to the Moment 18 wide-angle. Another feature of this lens that we like is the multiple carrying options. It comes with a hard-shelled case as well as a soft microfiber bag and a lens cleaning cloth. The macro lens body is shallow in profile, which at first seems like a great feature, and at times it is. But the drawback to that is there is not much surface area to grip the macro lens. This can be an issue if the lens gets over tight. It can be hard to remove the wide-angle lens from the macro lens. The macro lens does not have the highest magnification, which again isn't a negative feature but needs to be considered when deciding which one to choose. The number 6 position is dominated by Moment Wide 18 lens. The overall image quality of the Moment Wide 18 lens is excellent. Center sharpness, color rendition, and vignetting are all handled well. But where this model really shines is in backlit situations. We found that it's a step ahead of any other glass we tested in how it deals with flare, coming remarkably close to how the native iPhone lens behaves in most situations. There was one situation we found that resulted in a flare that was slightly undesirable, but it proved difficult to reproduce. This lens performed admirably in every other situation with flare. Like the different Moment lenses that we tested, we found installing this lens to the required case incredibly quick and easy. On the downside, this model underwhelms in edge sharpness. That beautiful image quality falls off quickly towards the perimeter of the frame, softening and distorting noticeably when compared to the bare iPhone lens or even the other high-performing auxiliary lenses. This lens is also expensive and requires a proprietary Moment case that adds extra cost. We did find the phone cases to be a little bulky, but they look and feel good. Moving on to the next at number 7 with bitplay Premium HD Telephoto. The bitplay Premium HD Telephoto is one of the two mid-length telephoto lenses we tested. We found this perspective produced eye-catching images that are really distinct from the standard phone lens. It made good images in every situation we put it in, producing decent image quality and pleasing colors, all with minimal distortion. This lens is a solid performer on all fronts. Like the Moment lenses we tested, this one requires a compatible case. The lens threads into the case, which is the most secure mounting system we tested, but it can be a little finicky to mount at times. This case features a small grip on the bottom right corner to help grip the phone when shooting horizontally. It also features a small lanyard connection point for the more clumsy among us. When it comes to the image quality of the lens, we did notice some degradation towards the edge of the frame. The number 8 position is held by CoPedvic Phone Camera Lens. The CoPedvic Phone Camera Lens Kit comes with 4 lenses, lens hood, mini tripod, and phone holder, all in a large protective carrying case. Those 4 lenses are 22x telephoto lens, a macro lens, a wide-angle lens, and a fisheye. This assortment of lenses will be useful for those who always like to be prepared. The standout lens for image quality is the macro lens, which was by far the best of the kit. The most visually exciting is the super telephoto lens, which gives a perspective you cannot usually achieve without using a more substantial camera system. That lens has its flaws for sure. The distortion and sharpness are reduced, but used creatively, it can produce compelling images. The CoPedvic mounting system is among the most adjustable of any we tested, but requires a little time to install on the phone. Once installed, it's easy to switch from lens to lens. The wide-angle lens showed average performance in the center of the frame but fell off dramatically as you moved to the edges. We would not use this lens much because of this issue. By far, the worst performing lens of the group is the fisheye, rating among the worst in every category in terms of image quality. It's there if you need it, but the images it produces are borderline cringeworthy. There were a few times we were installing the super telephoto lens and found an obstruction in the image of the lens, coming out with a black blur in the corner of the frame. It didn't appear every time, but more times than not. Neither cleaning the lens nor readjusting it on the phone ever solved the problem for us. Next, at number 9, we have Ailun 3-in-1 Clip-On. The Ailun 3-in-1 Clip-On is an excellent option for those who are unsure if auxiliary lenses are something they need. for a surprisingly low price. You can discover if there's something that piques your interest. Given the price point, lenses did respectably well. The standout here is the macro lens, which surpassed some of its more expensive competitors with average to above average performance in every metric. The macro lens occasionally got stuck on the mount, at times requiring pliers to get it off, which made switching to the fisheye very frustrating. However, it did fit over the XR native lens perfectly, making it very easy to install quickly. The price tag is reflected in the quality of the optics. We noticed a considerable change to the image as the lens rotated. Finally, the number 10 position is dominated by Xenvo Pro Lens Kit. After testing a number of inexpensive options, the best iPhone lens kit for those on a budget is the Xenvo Pro 2-in-1 system. The Xenvo 2-in-1 combination lens combines a super wide lens and a 15x macro lens and attaches to your camera using a universal clip, which can be used on any number of smartphones. The lens is encased in a relatively nice aluminum housing and comes in a little semi-hard case with a round, rechargeable clip, all light with 3 different brightness settings. Both lenses are decently sharp in the middle of the photo, however get softer towards the edges. Taking a photo of a pattern chair revealed the threads of fabric looping together in each color. While the Xenvo produces acceptable images, it's no match for the more expensive lens systems that we have reviewed from Moment or Sandmark. During our testing, we found that if the phone is not held still, the amount of detail in the photo was certainly lacking. Still, for $45, it is not a very risky investment if you are just getting into iPhoneography and want a better wide-angle and macro lens combo. That's all for today. We upload tech product review videos every single day, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for the upcoming video notification.